and welcome to ILTV's Evening Update. I'm Aaron Porras here with the latest news from Israel. The United States-Israeli relationship is closer than ever before, according to Israeli envoy to the United States, Ron Dermer. In a speech during AIPAC's annual policy conference, Dermer said, quote, "For the first time in many years, perhaps even many decades, there's no daylight between our two governments," end quote. His comments come just hours after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today denied that he's reached a consensus regarding settlement construction with the White House. A report by Channel 2 claimed that Israel may agree to limit settlement construction in return for permission to build a new residential area in the West Bank for the residents of the demolished Amona settlement. Netanyahu has promised to build a new settlement for the residents of Amona, who had their homes demolished earlier this year after the Israeli Supreme Court determined that they had built illegally on privately owned Palestinian land. Though Israel and Washington have yet to come to an agreement regarding settlement construction, it was rumored that the Trump administration has proposed that Israel refrain from expanding settlements beyond the three major settlement blocks in Area C, and that construction be confined to an annual quota. This comes barely a week after Special Envoy for International Negotiations Jason Greenblatt held high-level meetings in the region with Netanyahu and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. Hamas is closing the Erez border crossing for the first time since taking over the Gaza Strip in 2007. Hamas Interior Ministry spokesman Iyad Bazem said in a statement published on the ministry's website that, quote, "The closure of the Beit Hanun crossing, or the Erez crossing, comes as a part of the steps being taken by the security apparatus following the crime of assassinating Mazen Fukaha." However, Bazem did specify that exceptions will be made for humanitarian cases. Fukaha was shot dead in his home on Friday in an attack that Hamas blames on Israel, but that Israel refuses to comment on. Fukaha was imprisoned in Israel for his role in a 2002 suicide bombing, but was later released under a Gilad Shalit prisoner exchange deal and banished to Gaza. The Erez crossing is the only pedestrian border crossing between the Gaza Strip and Israel. Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman denies that there are at least 15 Hamas tunnels leading from Gaza into Israel. The assertion comes from a Channel 2 report that aired in February and quoted an unnamed source within the Security Cabinet. This comes just a few weeks after the release of the 2014 Gaza War report by the State Comptroller that faulted both the military and the government for failing to properly prepare the country for the 2014 Gaza War. The report also stipulates that the government and security services did not take the threat of Hamas tunnels seriously. During the war, Hamas used tunnels to launch attacks against Israel, and at least one Hamas-built tunnel was discovered to have led into a kibbutz located near the Gaza border. Today, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Finance Minister Moshe Kahlon met for the first time in a week to discuss the crisis over the new public broadcasting corporation that, if left unresolved, could lead to early elections. The two leaders failed to come to a resolution, but agreed to another meeting later in the week. The Prime Minister is threatening to call for early elections if the IBA isn't shut down and replaced with a different broadcast company that would likely have less editorial freedom. Kahlon is vehemently opposed to this decision, saying that doing so would be a waste of funds. Last week, Israeli media reported that the company's decision to hire veteran news anchor Geula Evan had greatly motivated the Prime Minister's decision. Evan is married to Gideon Sa'ar, a former Interior and Education Minister who resigned from the Likud in 2014. But he's expected to make a political comeback and is considered by many political insiders as a viable candidate against Netanyahu in the Likud primaries. As of yet, Netanyahu has not updated Communications Minister Tzachi Hanegbi or Tourism Minister Yariv Levin in regards to holding meetings, and Kahlon has said that he has not spoken to the Prime Minister since last week. Iran is now sanctioning 15 United States companies for ties with Israel over alleged human rights violations. The Iranian Foreign Ministry has been quoted as saying that the companies in question have, quote, flagrantly violated human rights by cooperating with Israel against the Palestinians. It's still unclear if any of the companies, including defense technology firm Raytheon, have had any dealings with Iran or how they'll be affected by Tehran's sanctions. The Iranian state news agency IRNA has said that the government will seize their assets and ban all contact with them. This comes just 2 days after the United States imposed sanctions on 30 companies and individuals for transferring sensitive technology to Iran for use in its missile defense program or for violating export controls on Iran, North Korea, and Syria. That's all for now. Stay tuned on ILTV.tv for our main daily broadcast playing after this. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you next time with our morning briefing from Israel at 8 a.m. Eastern Time.